Well, we're going to do something a little different on the channel today. I have done this in the past. I have ranked from best to worst the Final Fantasy series. And today we're going to do the same thing with the Legend of Zelda. The entire Legend of Zelda series. Now, this is just the mainline series. No spin-offs. Nothing like that. It's just the main games in the series. Now, I tried my best to put them in chronological order. I might be a little wrong here in this area. Please forgive me if I'm wrong chronologically. I tried my best just to do it off the top of my head. And we are going to start with the very first Zelda game. This game kicked it off. This game set the tone for the series and made it very, very popular. I have played this. I've played the second quest. I absolutely love this game. It is a essential NES game that you've got to have in your collection, and I'm going to put it at A. It's not a perfect game, but it is a really good entry, really good first entry in the series. You need to play this game. You've got to play this game. There's numerous ways to play it. You can play it on the NES Classic Edition. You can play it physically. It's pretty cheap still. You can also play it on the Switch Online service, and there's the eShop and all that stuff. You can find it pretty easy here. Next, this is considered to be the black sheep of the series. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Now, this is a huge departure from Zelda 1. Zelda 1 is a top-down view adventure game. Now, there is some top-down view action in the overworld map, but for the most part, when you're doing your combat, it's a 2D scroller, and there's actually some RPG elements with this game. And I'm gonna be honest, guys, I am not the biggest fan of this particular game. But I'm going to tell you a really fun and easy, good way to play Zelda 2 in a kind of Reader's Digest version, if you will, here momentarily after I rank it. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the C category, okay? C category. Now, if you see my rankings, I didn't put any Fs because I don't think that any of the mainline Zelda games, I don't think that there is a single F in the series, if there even is a single D, and we'll get to that. Now, back to Zelda 2. The best way to play this is the NES Remix 2. And it basically chunks the game up in little bite-sized pieces for you to play through, and you can fight the bosses. There's little challenges, and you can actually fight Dark Link, the last boss, and that was actually the first time I ever fought Dark Link. Now, I know it's not really the full game necessarily, but it is a very good option. You can actually play that on the Wii U and also on the 3DS, the NES Remix 2. You can actually get the 1 and 2 collection together, and honestly, if you love NES, you gotta play that anyway. It's kind of a fun little mini game, and just a lot of good NES games in there, kind of bite-sized pieces, if you will. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put Link to the Past here at S. Okay, one of the best in the series, and one of the best games in the series, hands down. It did it right. It took everything that was right with the first game and just multiplied it. And made it much, much better graphically. The sound, just the gameplay. I love going between the light world and the dark world. And I just love hunting down those pendants and, you know, finding the crystals and all that. And then fighting Ganon at the end. I absolutely love this game. I love all of the weapons. I love all of the tools. I love the magic. I just love this game. It is one of my favorite games of all time. Probably top 2 or 3 very, very easily. Now, one thing in this list you're not going to see is Link's Awakening, the remastered version. I'm just going to kind of include that in this conversation as well. This is the original Game Boy game that came out, and it is in the same style as Zelda 3, or Link to the Past, if you will. At the time, this was Zelda 3 to us, and it was actually called Zelda 3 by Nintendo for a very long time. If you go back and look at the promotional materials and the early stuff with A Link to the Past, you're going to see Zelda 3, but really it's not. So, Link's Awakening. Yes, it is not as good graphically, but it is just so charming. And for an early handheld Game Boy game, there's a lot of content and a lot of hours of fun. I'm going to go ahead and put this at an A. And I'm kind of including the remastered here as well. I played through the remastered and I absolutely loved it on the Nintendo Switch. If you don't want to play something that's kind of archaic, I recommend the Switch title. And it is an excellent entry or re-entry into the Zelda franchise. Ocarina of Time. Now, I played this. We got this. We got the gold cartridge, the special edition, all that stuff, the collector's box and all that stuff. Day one. I've had this game ever since it came out, day one in the United States. And I'm going to tell you that there were not very many games that wowed me as a kid, but this was one of them, Ocarina of Time. And has it aged well? Not necessarily, but much like A Link to the Past, this is going to set the tone for a lot of Zelda games in the future. And there's a lot to love here. I love the ocarina mechanics, the songs. I love young Link and older Link, teenager Link, and going back and forth between time and seeing the repercussions of Ganon and this whole mess that Zelda and Link created when Ganon came and basically took over Hyrule. And I love the weapons. I love the 3D aspect. It was a very good transition from 2D to 3D. So I am going to put Ocarina of Time S rank. One of the best in the series. And you can play this game a lot of different ways. Of course, on the N64. It's on the GameCube. It was released on the GameCube. It was on the Wii shop. Now it's defunct. I actually have it on my Wii downloaded. That was one of the first games I downloaded on the Wii shop. There's other ways you could play it. The Wii U. Oh man, am I missing others? Let me know down in the comments below. Are there other ways to play this? Also on the GameCube, you could play the other version of this game, the Master Quest version, which is like a reimagining that was supposed to come out on the HDD on the N64 that was not released in America. So I highly recommend that too if you're looking for a challenge or a different way to play Ocarina of Time. Alright, I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. Oh, you can also play this on the 3DS. I forgot to mention that. It got remastered on the 3DS. You can also play it there. Ocarina of Time was awesome. And then they used the same engine, the same character designs, and all that stuff in Majora's Mask, which is kind of what they're going to be doing with the new Breath of the Wild game that's coming out. And it makes sense. And I like that. And I'm very excited about Breath of the Wild 2, by the way. But this one, I am not the biggest fan of Majora's Mask. Alright, it is quirky, I know it's a fan favorite, I understand that, I have beaten it, I've played it, I've actually played through it a few times. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this particular game. But I'm actually going to rank it pretty high because it is a very well polished game, and it polishes up a lot of issues with Ocarina of Time. And there's also a lot of cool mechanics in Majora's Mask that are not present in Ocarina of Time with all the transformations that Link can do. In particular, I like the Zora mask. That's probably my favorite transformation of Link. You got the Deku boy transformation, and then the Goron one too. And I'm gonna push my bias to the side a little bit here and just say it is an excellent game. The soundtrack is excellent. The game mechanics are excellent. I love the time travel aspect, but to me, I just couldn't get into it as much as Ocarina of Time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this at A. And you could play this on the 3DS, the N64, also the GameCube. So it's pretty available. It might be a little bit more expensive on the N64. Now, you can actually find Ocarina of Time pretty cheap on the N64 if you're wanting to go the original route. So I do recommend that you play it if you are a big time Zelda fan, especially an Ocarina of Time fan. And the 3DS version is a really, really good option. Next up, I'm going to lump these two together. Now, I do think that one is better than the other. Personally, I like Seasons better than Ages, but I'm just going to lump these two together. Originally, it was going to be 3 games, but they ended up just doing the 2. And these are some excellent titles, very similar to Link's Awakening. Top-down view like Link to the Past, and there's different mechanics for both. And I played these back in the day. I owned them back in the day. Excellent titles. You're gonna love all the aspects, the differences between the two, and you can link them together and fight the true final boss at the end of the game if you beat both. So there is some rewards here for playing both games, playing them through. Now, they're not as good, in my opinion. Yeah, graphically they look a little bit better, and there's color, because they're Game Boy Color games, so I get that. But to me, it's just not as charming as Link's Awakening. But they're still very good titles that you've got to play. You've got to play if you're a huge Zelda fan. If you are into the 2D top-down view Zelda games, you've got to play these two particular games. And I know I'm cheating by putting them together, but they're very, very similar mechanics and very well done games. Now, the interesting thing, these were not really created by Nintendo, but Capcom. And that's a really cool thing that Nintendo actually let happen with one of their main series, first party titles, IPs, if you will, and really, really good entries in the series. Now we're getting into the GameCube era, and this is kind of when I started getting out of Zelda a little bit. This is when I stopped really kind of being interested in Zelda for a while, when Majora's Mask came out and Seasons and Ages came out. I was kind of like, I was really into RPGs, and to me, I was almost a Zelda snob, if you will. And when Wind Waker came out, I totally dismissed it when it first came out. I didn't even play it. I didn't buy it. I saw the graphics and I said, what the heck is this crap? This looks like a little kid's game. I am not going to play this game. I am not interested in this. Get out of town. Okay, the cel shaded graphics. Now, I was so wrong with this. And, man, I've gone back. I played the Wii U version. I actually remember purchasing this game for GameCube. I bought a GameCube in particular just to play this game. And, man, was I so wrong. I love that you can travel. It does get a little monotonous from time to time. But I love the exploration aspect. I do like the graphics. The graphics grow on you. And it is just as good as any other Zelda entry on this list. Okay? And I don't want you guys to hear me wrong. I absolutely love this game. Now, is it a little overrated? Possibly. But it is still an excellent, excellent game. I'm going to go and put this at A. And you've got to play this game. I've already named off a few ways for you to play it. The Wii U is probably the best way to play it, in my opinion. You can play it on the GameCube as well, but Wii U's are pretty cheap now, and this game is still really cheap. You can probably find it for $20 or less, the Wii U version, if not a little bit cheaper. I haven't checked the price in a while. I got this when it was released. I actually have the Wii U Special Edition, Wind Waker Edition, and that's one of my favorite pieces in my collection. And I still have the box, I still have all that stuff, and I even have like 2 other copies of this game in my collection for the Wii U. That's how crazy I am about this game. Now, Four Swords on the GameCube. I've played this. It's very different, and I believe this game actually came out before this. This is Link to the Past and Four Swords, so this actually should go before this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it here. Man, I don't know how I feel about this game. I understand what Nintendo was trying to do. They were trying to incorporate multiplayer in the Zelda universe, and thank the Lord I'm not doing Triforce Heroes on here, because Triforce Heroes would be F. I do not like that game in particular, but this game, it's fun, it's decent. I just haven't played it enough, if that makes sense. I don't want to give it like the top ranking, but again, I haven't played it enough. Let me know down in the comments below. I'm sure it's a lot of fun with 4 players. I'm sure it is. I've never actually done that. And that's kind of the problem. I never really had friends who wanted to play this. So, yeah, it is what it is. I'm just going to go and give it a C. If you think that this deserves a higher ranking, let me know and give me a reason why. If you think the multiplayer is really cool, the mechanic is really cool, let me know down in the comments below. If I'm totally wrong, let me know too. This is all my opinion too. I did not state that at the beginning. This is all my opinion and my experience with the series. I have grown up with this series. My first game in the series was A Link to the Past, and then I would actually go on to play 1 and 2, and so I have played all the mainline games for the most part. This is one that I'm kind of lacking though. Alright, Twilight Princess. This is another big hitter. Now, this came out on the GameCube, towards the end of the life of the GameCube. That's the version I went with, and it also came out on the Wii. There's also a Wii U Remastered Edition, so those are the ways you can play it, and it's fairly cheap on the Wii U, I believe. On the GameCube, it's getting a little high in price. You can probably get it for 30 to 40 bucks. But it's still a pretty reasonable title to find, pretty easy title to find. And I played this game in college. I played this game at the right time, and I absolutely fell in love with this game. I loved the Wolf Link mechanic. A lot of people don't like that. I like the Twilight World transition. Reminded me of the Dark World with A Link to the Past. And Minda, is that how you say her name? Minda. She was a character. She's the creature, the thing that rides on Link's back, and we find out that she is actually the Twilight Princess. And this game just seems a lot darker, grittier, and Link just seems more grown up, if you will. Now, it's still Zelda, and it still has that Zelda charm and all that, but man, it just seems a lot darker and more grown up, if you will. And I absolutely love the dungeons in this one, and I absolutely love just all the mechanics. Now, I do not like the Wii version of this game. I don't like the Wii in general, and I just don't like that I'm forced to use Wii controls. I understand that that was the pull of using the Wii and all that, you know, motion mechanics and all that. I get it, but I chose the GameCube version because I just wanted to play a traditional Zelda game. So I'm going to go ahead with all that said. It's going to be S for me. S. And I actually replayed it on the Wii U when it got re-released on the Wii U, and it still holds up. An excellent title, an excellent game. I love it, love it, love it. Minish Cap. Now, this is another top-down version of Zelda. And basically, you find out how Link got his cap. And it's kind of cool. And Link can shrink down to basically like miniature size, very miniature size, and explore the world that way. And that mechanic alone is really neat and really cool. And it is an awesome, awesome game. When I played through this game, it reminded me again of A Link to the Past. I felt like I was playing a sequel to A Link to the Past. It is that good. It is that excellent. The graphics are excellent. The soundtrack is excellent. And I actually downloaded this game on the Wii U on the eShop and played through it again. And man, it still holds up. You've got to play this game if you're a huge fan of A Link to the Past or Link's Awakening or any of the top-down Zelda games for that matter. So I'm going to go and put this at an A. It's not as good as the S tier, the absolute best in the series. And I can't put my thumb on it, but it's just not as good as these. I mean, it's kind of replicating, in my opinion, a lot of the great things that were done in A Link to the Past. Alright, so, this was the remastered version, if you will, the re-release of the Game Boy Advance version of A Link to the Past. And I'm just going to put it up here in the S tier because it's A Link to the Past. Now, there are some slight differences. It does have 4 swords, and you can do some multiplayer there. I have not really tried that out. That's the only thing that I have not really tried out on this title, but it's A Link to the Past. And at the time, when I was in high school, I was kind of going through a Zelda drought. And when this got re-released, I played through it again. I absolutely loved it. Now, there are some differences, like I said. There's actually some of the sound effects that are in Ocarina of Time. Like when Link is actually like using his sword, you can hear him and all that stuff when he's swinging, just like in Ocarina of Time. But it's A Link to the Past. That's all I had to say about that. It's cheap. It's cheap enough. You can find it pretty cheap if you want, and it is a good way to play A Link to the Past on the go if you don't have like a Superboy or whatever it is to play this. Now you can play A Link to the Past on the 3DS. Is that right? Let me know down in the comments below if I'm correct there with that. Now, I'm probably going to hurt a lot of people's feelings with these next two. I'm going to lump these next two together. My gosh. Oh boy. Don't hate me or don't bash me too much on this. But I absolutely hate these two games. Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. And I'm going to tell you guys why. So I'm going to go and put these. These are the only D entries on the list. And I tried playing them. I was really, really excited about these games. And they're both DS titles. And they're both in the whole universe of Wind Waker. And it's in the same style as Wind Waker. So it's kind of a continuation of Wind Waker. I cannot stand these games because you have to use the touchscreen. You have to use the touchscreen. You have to use the stylus. You have to use it on the DS. I hate that with a passion. Playing the entire game with a stylus and no D-pad option, this made me so upset. This made me so angry, so mad, and I bought both of them when they were released, and I still haven't beaten them. Okay, I cannot put myself through that pain. I cannot put myself through that pain to play with the stylus. I might be completely wrong here. I might be utterly wrong here. Let me know now in the comments below. And maybe you really, really like these games. Maybe you grew up with these games and you love them. Maybe I'm just old school. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm a stick in the mud with this whole thing. Just let me know down in the comments below. Now, something I might end up doing. Now, I understand that this is illegal and frowned upon and all that stuff. There's actually been some patches, some ROM patches, to where you can use the D-pad. There's an option to use the D-pad. I did a little research on this a few years ago because I wanted to go back and actually give these two particular games more of a fair shake. And I don't know. I wish I could. I wish Nintendo would have made the decision to have a D-pad option. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they honor their previous fans who don't want to use a stylus? I understand you're playing it on the DS, but I don't want to use a stupid stylus. Alright? So that's why they're here, and it's solely because of that mechanic. Not because of the story, not because of the graphics, or even, the music, or the dungeons, or anything. It's just that just kind of sours the whole experience for me for these particular DS games. Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. Alright, now we're into the final stretch here. Skyward Sword. This was a late Wii release, and I remember when it got released, you could actually get a gold controller and a gold Wii controller. And I did not actually play this game when it first came out. I rented it from my local Family Video. They had it there. I rented the game. I played it a little bit, and I wasn't the biggest fan. A few years would pass. The game actually dropped in value a little bit. I saw it on sale, and I actually ended up getting the gold controller as well. And I wanted to give it another shot. I have gone through, I have beaten the game, I have played through the game, just because I'm such a huge Zelda fan. And this is the earliest entry in the series, if you will. And I wanted to kind of see where the series started. And we wouldn't find out that this is the earliest entry for a while, by the way, with the Zelda timeline and all that stuff. But it's not bad. You need to play it. It's a fun title. It'd be interesting if it got re-released on the Switch. That would actually be pretty cool, and I would play through it again. The Wii mechanics aren't super bad here. They're not as bad as Twilight Princess on the Wii, in my opinion. Graphically, it's okay. It's kind of a mixture of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and put this at a B. I know some might actually end up putting it down here, even in the C or D category, but again, it's still an excellent Wii title, Wii release, and a good entry in the series. I believe the only way you can play it right now is on the Wii itself, and I know people are a little meh about it, but for me, my experience, I'm giving it a B. Now, A Link Between Worlds. Okay, we got 2 more games here. A Link Between Worlds. This is a 3DS game, and you guys know how I harped on the mechanic of using the DS stylus and the touchpad here. Well, this is the complete opposite. Okay, there's a suggested use of using the 3D effect on the 3DS. Now, I'm not going to say I use it all the time, 100% of the time, but the 3D effect on this was really, really well done. And A Link Between Worlds, it's a sequel-ish or a continuation of A Link to the Past. So when I started hearing news about this, my ears perked up. I wanted to play this when Nintendo, when they were saying that this is kind of a sequel. Now the mechanic is you can go between worlds, and basically you're like a 2D Link drawing on the walls, and you can go between different worlds, and you can, instead of actually going from dungeon to dungeon, a linear kind of thing like you have to in A Link to the Past, you can actually borrow weapons and then eventually buy the weapons. So you can go to any dungeon at any time that you want, and I like that freedom. I like that. In fact, I might actually start a replay of this on my own time, because it's been a little while since I played through it. And it is a love letter to A Link to the Past. There's a lot of, it's A Link to the Past. That's all it is. It is A Link to the Past with the different mechanics that I just shared. But if you love A Link to the Past, you will absolutely love A Link Between Worlds. In fact, it is my second or third favorite Zelda game. And I'll go through here and I'll kind of rank my favorites out of the S rankings, if you will, too. Just my personal favorites here in a moment. Okay, so Breath of the Wild. This is the last title we're going to talk about. This was released on the Switch, the Nintendo Switch, and this was one of the driving factors, at least early on, to buy a Nintendo Switch. This game is awesome. It is truly open world, and it is truly, if you see something in the background, you can go travel to it and find it and explore it. This game is all about exploration. This game is all about finding out what's in this world, finding out what's going on in Hyrule, the ruins, and this game is so, there's just an epicness to it. It feels like Skyrim, like how big it is, and I just love the open worldness with it. I love open world games in general. And there's a few things I don't like about it. The weapons breaking thing is annoying. It can get annoying over time. Also, the rain. Everyone complains about the rain. So do I. It's old and it's annoying. I get it. But with all the annoyances, this game is just so good and so awesome. When the Switch came out, the reason to own a Switch, like I said, was to play this game. I love the boss battles. I absolutely, they can be a little bit on the boring side and a little repetitive. I love the Guardians. I love that you can go find all the memories of Link and Zelda, and I love the fact that you're basically like lost. You have amnesia, and you got to figure out what the heck is going on, and you just have like little fragments of information to understand what's going on. I also like the little mini dungeons, they're little mini puzzles, and they're spread out all over the world. So instead of having like a huge dungeon or multiple big dungeons, you're gonna have these little tiny little bite-sized piece dungeons, if you will, and little puzzles that you had to complete along the way. And they vary. It might just be a little fight that you had to do, or like I said, a puzzle, or you just go down and there it is. And there's a lot to discover in this game, a lot. And there's actually some DLCs with this that you can enjoy. And you know, I have all the DLCs, and the motorcycle one is my favorite. It's pretty hilarious seeing Link on a motorcycle, but it makes sense with him being in Mario Kart 8 and all that. But yeah, I digress about that. You've got to play this game. You have got to play this game. It is a modern classic. It is one of the best games to come out in the past 5 years. You have got to play this game. Yes, graphically, it's not going to match up with the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, but man, it is still beautiful, and it is still eye-catching. The soundtrack, there's not a whole lot there, but when it is there, it's very well done. I also really like the cooking mechanic. I did a lot of the cooking stuff early on, and I got a blast out of it. All the recipes and all that stuff, all the things that you can cook up and eat and all that, I absolutely love this game. It's going at S. It has to go at S. It has to, right? And yeah, there's not a whole lot of bad titles in the Legend of Zelda series. I get that. I understand that. And when Nintendo makes a new Zelda game, or a Mario game for that fact, usually 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a really, really well-polished, well-done title. And I really appreciate that Breath of the Wild was a well-polished game and actually got pushed back a few times. Now one last thing about Breath of the Wild. You can actually play this on the Switch and the Wii U. I forgot to mention that. So this is very similar to Twilight Princess, where it was released on the GameCube and also on the Wii. So yeah, highly recommend it. Now, let's just go through here my top Zelda games, and I'm going to go ahead and rank them. I'm going to just take this one out to the side here. This one is just kind of a duplicate. It is a very good title on its own. It's a really good version of Link to the Past, but I'm just going to do like my top 5 Zelda games of all time here as well. And Link to the Past is going to stay there at number 1 for sure. That's my all-time favorite Zelda game. Now this is where it's going to get tricky. Which one do I choose? The sequel to A Link to the Past or Breath of the Wild? This is very, very tough for me, because when I played through these games, man, I was blown away by both titles. So what do I pick? I'm going to have to go Breath of the Wild as my number 2 favorite Zelda game of all time. And then 3 is going to be A Link Between Worlds. This is a really solid 3. My top 3 favorites. Now, the spots for 4 and 5, this is where it also gets a little hairy for me, because at the time, you know, I was in 7th grade when this game came out, and this left a very big impression on me. There's a lot of nostalgia here for me for Ocarina of Time, but it hasn't aged as well as Twilight Princess, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of fun. I have played through this game so many times, probably at least 10 times. Twilight Princess maybe 2.5 times, maybe. So that could also be a factor too. Just playing this too much, if that makes sense. It gets a little stale, so that might be my own fault. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Twilight Princess. Oops. Twilight Princess over Ocarina of Time. That's just my opinion. These are all my opinions, okay? Now, if I were to go on here, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing this, but I'm not going to tell you guys in particular. Remember, this is just kind of off to the side, link to the past GBA. Here, I'm going to stick with this. I like Seasons over Ages anyway. And then Skyward Sword. That's correct. Zelda 2, then Four Swords. I actually like Spirit Tracks more than Phantom Hourglass. I just like the theme better. I like the railroad thing going on there. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't intending on ranking every single game like in order, but that's roughly how I feel about the Zelda franchise. Now again, I did not rank all the spin-offs. Those games to me are just totally different things. You know, if you think I'm wrong, just let me know down in the comments below. Do you have a different opinion? Do you think I'm absolutely wrong about these games? Let me know down in the comments below. I love Zelda. Absolutely love Zelda. A lot of people do. And to me, some of my favorite franchises of all time: Final Fantasy, Zelda, Phantasy Star. It's up there as one of the greatest franchises in history. And seeing it grow with the technology, and also, you know, staying humble and staying true to its roots. Breath of the Wild, I feel like a lot of inspiration came from the original Legend of Zelda, and just kind of the grittiness and kind of bareness with it. So yeah, I'm really excited about Breath of the Wild 2. And everything that I keep seeing about it looks awesome. And it's a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild 1. Alright guys, well I really appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have different thoughts on any of this. Have a great rest of your day. ゼルダの伝説出る出る出る出るついに出るゴージャス今度の冒険リアル君もすぐに体験憎いでやんすねこんちくしょう高画質の謎解きアクション戸惑うことなくのめり込もうもちのろんスーパーファミコン真剣勝負今宵もゼルダは最高潮スーパーファミコンゼルダの